Hello and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. I'm Leslie.
I'm Shauna.
Today we are bringing you another pre-con deep dive. In this video, we're going to break down all the cards in this deck, talk to you about what this deck is meant to do and how to use it wisely, hopefully. And if you wait till the end, we have a few suggestions, tweaks,
Mm-hmm.
cards that you may want to put into this deck to make it just a teeny smidge better. Um, but that's up to you, of course. After you play it, you'll know what you like.
Mm-hmm.
But Sean is going to tell us a little bit about the commander itself and what the deck is meant to do.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. This is the Rebellion Rising new commander deck that's just coming out with Naeli, the Sun's Vanguard. My pronunciation is
Nayali?
terrible.
Nayali? Yeah, whatever.
This is the main commander of the deck. You'll see some other commanders come up because this is a two-color deck, so we've got lots of options here. But this guy, and this deck in particular, because it is 3/3 for 2, a red and a white, that says attacking tokens you control have double strike. Very, very strong. You're going to make a lot of tokens.
Mm.
Whenever one or more tokens you control attack a player, you get to exile the top card of your library, and during any turn you attacked with a token, you may play that card. So it doesn't have to be right away. It could be turns later on. So you're going to see that there isn't a lot of card draw in this deck, but this is a way that you can get some cards from this guy. So
Yeah, no,
basically,
that's a good point. I never even thought about
yeah,
that
yeah,
because you get it two hands then, right?
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, you've got this whole other set of cards. So it's so you want to have tokens, and more tokens, and doing borrows things, attacking. It's a very, very aggressive deck. There's a little bit of protection here in this deck, but you might want to do some more because you're going to be building a big board and you're going to have your opponents attacking you because they need to get rid of you because you keep coming at them. There's also a little sub theme in this deck with equipment. So again, you're attacking and you have equipment that's going to give your tokens even more stuff, maybe. Some of the new equipment that's come out in the new set auto equips to a little rebel token that it comes out with, which is nothing to laugh about. It's actually pretty strong. So there's
Mm.
that. Then also one of our commanders, and we'll talk about it later, has experience counters, and experience counters don't go away. Those are always there. So yeah, so you might be able to do that.
Mm.
So Leslie is going to give you a little breakdown of the deck.
As far as our color breakdown, we
Mm-hmm.
have 61% of our deck in white, which is very high. 31% is red, and then we have 21% of colorless pips. Things like artifacts that don't come with any color. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of cool. We also see that as far as our mana goes, we have 53% of our mana pool producing white mana and 50% producing red mana. So it's fairly
Mm.
even across the board. So whatever you want to play, you're going to be able to play in this deck.
Awesome. You
Mm-hmm.
can play lots.
Yeah.
So we have a little formula that we follow when we're evaluating decks, when we're building our own decks. We really like it. It seems to work really well. So the formula is laid out. We have 15 ramp cards, basically. Those ones are going to get you to your land, and 15 removal cards. It's pretty self-explanatory. 13 card draws is what we recommend, and about 12 high impact cards. Those are cards that are going to win you the game, take over. And then we have about 10 other cards on theme, or cards that support that win condition or an alternate win condition. And then about 34 lands is kind of what you want to see in this deck. So we're going to take a look at all of those sections and see where this deck sits according to that little formula. So
Mm-hmm.
Leslie, what's our first section?
First section. Well, first I'll say this deck does not fit our formula very well at all. Uh, and that is because it's
No.
very, very theme heavy, this one,
Mm-hmm.
which may be good, may be bad. In this case, we have ramp mana generators. Our formula, we like to say, has 15. Our deck has 8. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty low on that, but we do have kind of a low curve, so we should be able to get things out anyway. Our first one is Solemn Simulacrum for 4. It's a little 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you get to search for a basic land, put it on to the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So you get a creature and a land out of this, which is great. Plus, an added bonus is it has draw, so it
Mm-hmm.
does fit into that draw category as well.
Nice. And then we have our lovely arcane signet that we always love to see in these commander decks. This is one of the reasons why you should get these commander decks, so that you have access to this card. It's a 2 mana cost artifact that lets you tap for any color in your commander's color identity.
Mm-hmm. And Boros Signet. Of course, it wouldn't be a good Boros deck without a Boros Signet in it. Basically, you pay 1 mana to tap for a red and white. Basically, it just taps for 2 mana for 1. So that's
Yeah.
great.
Then we've got the Commander Sphere, another commander deck staple that you'll want to have for 3. It's adding 1 color in your commander's color identity, but the bonus is you get to sacrifice it later on to draw a card.
Mm-hmm. Another little draw card.
Mm-hmm.
Fellware Stone, add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. So if
Mm-hmm.
they have land, then that will help you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. Mind Stone for 2. It's a little colorless mana tapping artifact that you can also pay 1 mana and tap and sacrifice this guy and draw a card. So that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Little
And
more card
everyone
draw.
loves the Soul Ring, especially if it's on turn 1.
Yeah.
Just this one just taps for colorless, but it's 2 colorless, so that can get you going in the game a little bit faster.
Yeah. And then a nice little talisman of conviction that is a 2 mana cost artifact that taps for colorless unless you want to pay a life, and tap for the red or the white.
Mm-hmm. And life
That's
is no
it.
joke. That's it.
Yeah.
So pretty low on, but you probably won't need a lot of ramp. Our next section is removal. It's one of our favorite sections, but it's a little light on removal too. Formula
Yeah.
says 15. This deck has 9. So
Mm-hmm.
that may be a problem
And
for
even some
you.
of them are a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to want to kill them fast with this deck. Not worry if you wait
Yeah.
too long. But anyway, Siege Gang Commander for 5. It's a 2/2. You're like, what? You pay 5 for a 2/2? But when Siege Gang Commander enters the battlefield, you get to create 3 red goblin creature tokens, which supports your deck theme. And you can pay 2 and sacrifice a goblin Siege Gang Commander, and it deals 2 damage to any target. So, you can sacrifice those to do 2 damage. You can do that as many times as you want. So it's kind of a weak removal, but it is a removal, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I was desperate to put removal in there.
Yeah.
Then we have a board wipe. Chain reaction
Yay.
for 2 and 2 red. It deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. So
Mhm.
yeah, you're gonna have lots of creatures. You're swing in first and then play this if you want, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. I
It's
often
interesting.
sideboard that one out.
And well,
I don't
and they
like it very
didn't
much.
they didn't put fumigate in here, and we didn't put it in our tweak, so I'm going to talk about it now because we can put it up on the screen next to this
Okay.
one. If you're going to do board wipes that do well, because your deck relies on you creating a whole bunch of tokens, and if you're going to
Yeah.
wipe your tokens off the board with something like Chain Reaction, which will wipe all your stuff off the board, then you might as well gain some life on it. So Fumigate would probably be a better choice in this deck, but you can decide that.
Yeah.
Collective Effort for 3 has Escalate, which means you can tap an untapped creature you control, and then you can get an extra mode. So this one comes in with choose 1 or more, and that's the Escalate. So you can destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, destroy target enchantment, or put a 1/1 counter on each creature target player controls. So you're going to have lots of tokens to use this. You're going to want to tap and do all 3 of them when you play this card for sure.
Yeah. And then this board wipe might be a little more useful for you. The Hour of Reckoning, it's for 4 and 3 white. It's a sorcery that has Convoke. So Convoke means you can tap your creatures for those colors. So if you have white creatures, you can tap for the white mana in this one. Plus you can tap for the 4 if you want to as well. And destroy all non-token creatures. So that could be a lot more beneficial for you. You're destroying their stuff and you get to keep all your tokens. So that's all right.
Better choices. Yep. Create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. So if you need a board wipe, at least leave yourself with a whole bunch of creatures, and you will want to make that a higher mana cost if you're going to wipe the board. It'll depend. Someone might have already done a board wipe and left all, maybe they did Garruk's Wake and they kept all their creatures. Well, you can do that and say, well, fine, you lose yours too, and I'm gonna keep 2 soldiers if that's what you need to do. But
yeah, that's right. Gosh. And then Rip Apart, it's a nice little Boros sorcery that's for red and white that you get to choose whether you want to deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, which is handy, or you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. Again, that's pretty handy.
And again, wouldn't be Boros without a Boros charm. For 2, you get an instant. It deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker, or you can choose permanents you control gain indestructible till the end of turn. So some nice protection in there. Or target creature gains double strike until the end of turn. Now, if you have your commander out, then that's irrelevant. So really, it's the 4 damage to target player or planeswalker that's gonna,
Generous Gift. Leslie liked this one. It's a little 2 and a white instant that you destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. So you take away their good thing and give them an elephant. How generous of you.
I just love those ones because I'm just such a nice person. And if I'm going to take away your thing, I want to give you something back in return, you know? I'm sure that's it.
Like this card too.
Path to Exile, yes, I love this card. For 1 instant, exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land. Put that card onto the battlefield. Tapped, then shuffle. I love that this one is exile because that gets rid of their some of their things that won't go away.
Destructible.
Yeah.
Then we're into the card draw tutor section. The formula calls for 13. The deck has 5, but again, like we talked about at the beginning, that you've maybe with your commander you've got some stash of exiled cards that you get to play. However, Mentor of the Meek is a really good card draw card for this deck in particular because it's a 2/2 for 3, and whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 1, and if you do, draw a card. So a lot of those tokens are just little guys. You can pay that 1. You can do it as many times as you have mana for. So this can potentially get you quite a few cards. So yeah, he's pretty good.
Great card for this deck. Cut a Deal for 3 is a sorcery. Each opponent draws a card. Then you draw a card for each opponent who drew a card this way. So it's interesting because it doesn't say each opponent may draw a card. They don't get the choice. They're going to draw a card. Some of those ones, they're like, would you like to draw a card? And they're like, I'm not giving you any cards. So no, I'm not drawing a card. So this just gets you them anyway.
Haha. Nice. Then this is a new card, Glimmer Lens. It's a little equipment for 2, actually, which isn't too bad. And it has a new mechanic called Formiridin, which... This is the one I was talking about, that when it enters the battlefield, you make a little rebel token, a little 2/2 rebel, and then attach this to it. So this one is whenever equipped creature and at least one other creature attack, you get to draw a card. And its equip cost is only 2. So that's really nice to have in this deck again, because if your creature dies, you can put on something else and attack with it and get more cards. So that's really helpful, actually.
It's nice that it stays.
Yeah.
Idol of Oblivion for 2 allows you to just tap it, draw a card, activate only if you created a token this turn. Great for a token deck. Then you can pay 8 and tap and sacrifice it to create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. So if things are just looking dire, you're like, I'm just going to do it Eldrazi. Fine.
Yeah. Then we've got another, I think this is new as well, the Mask of Memory. It's another equipment. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards. And if you do, you have to discard a card. And its equip cost is only 1. So it does have the discard there, but, you know, that helps you filter through your deck a little.
Yep. Soul Guide Lantern for 1 is an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you get to exile target card from a graveyard. Could be yours, could be theirs. You can tap and sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern to exile each opponent's graveyard, which is fantastic removal. And then you can also pay 1, tap, sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern, and draw a card. So if you're not playing against graveyard recursion decks, then you're going to get a card draw in there. So this one has a lot of versatility, which is great.
Yeah. Then we've got another new card that's called Staff of the Storyteller. It's an artifact for 2, 1 and a white. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to make a little spirit creature token with flying. And whenever you create 1 or more creature tokens, you get to put a story counter on the staff. And then you can tap it and pay 1 and remove a story counter from this guy and draw a card. So you don't have to sacrifice it or anything. You just keep this little card draw generator going. So
just keep the stories coming. It's great.
So you can do that pretty much right away as soon as it comes out if you want. Yeah.
Court of Grace for 4 is an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. What is the monarch, you say? Well, basically you put a little fake crown on yourself, and you get to keep that crown as long as nobody does combat damage to you. So once you do combat damage, then the monarch crown moves to whoever did damage to you. And at the end, on your end step, if you are the monarch, you get to draw a card. So it just gets you an extra card if you can keep it. So we love the monarch. It's a fun little mechanic. Also, at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If you're the monarch, you get to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying instead. So this is a pretty high impact one that gets you card draw as well. But yeah, it's gonna do some work for you if you can keep the monarch.
Yeah. Then we're coming, speaking of high impact, we've come to our high impact section. The formula calls for 12. The deck has about 12. Because, there's lots of good stuff in this deck. First thing is, this is Adriana, the captain of the guard. And this card can be your commander if you want. But it's a 4/4 with 3, a red and a white that has melee. So whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attack this combat. And other creatures you control have melee as well. So that buffs up. Everybody's buffing themselves up. So the +1/+1, we were talking earlier about the fact that you need to, sometimes you want to keep track of this because a +1/+1 buff temporarily is different than a +1/+1 counter. So if you want to keep track of those on your cards as you're attacking, you can use something like a dice or something for +1/+1 counters because it's staying on there. But make sure that you, if you're using the +1/+1 buffing dice for that, you want to make sure that it's different than your +1/+1 counters because in this case it goes away afterwards. So you don't want to have that. Or we have these lovely infinite tokens from our friends at Infinite Tokens that you can just write on them that this one has +1/+1 or something like that. So something to keep track of that helps you and your opponents figure out, well, how much is the power on this, power and toughness on this creature? It gets really complicated, especially when you have a deck like this. Right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of enchantments and stuff in this deck too that say your tokens get +1/+1 and your this gets so now all my tokens have this. So if you have like a little dry erase infinite token off to the side that just has, you like to do this, Shauna, all the time, like, okay, here's my pool of my +1s. I know that they all have, based on these enchantments, +5. So then everyone can see that all of your creatures have +5, but they're not counters. So you don't want to have to always like change your stuff. If someone gets rid of one of the enchantments or something goes away, then you don't want to have to do 1,000 dice changes.
Exactly.
Crazy. Anyways, not sponsored, but awesome.
we love Megan. Yeah.
Next one is Dragon Master Outcast. I love this card. It is a little 1/1 for 1, but at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 6 or more lands, which is not hard in Commander, create a 5/5 red dragon token with flying. What? For 1 mana, that's just
Yeah.
a ridiculous card. Everyone hates it, but
Yeah.
I
He never
love it.
gets to live a very long.
He
this poor
doesn't
little
live very
shaman.
long. Everyone's like, nope,
Dead.
dead.
Oh dear. Then we have the Gold Knight Commander. It is a Gold Knight Commander. It's a human cleric soldier. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. See, there you go. How to keep track of that as you have all these tokens getting made because a creature comes out and oh my gosh, so crazy.
Harmonious Archon, flying. Non-Archon creatures have a base power of 3/3. So there you go. All of your creatures that are non-Archons have a base power of 3/3 instead of 1/1. And when Harmonious Archon enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 human creature tokens, which are actually what? 3/3.
3/3s. Ugh,
Yeah.
complicated.
Another thing to keep track of.
Yep. Jor-Kadeen, the Prevailers. So this is another one you could use for your commander as well. 5/4 for 5, 3 in red and a white with first strike. And this one has Metalcraft that says creatures you control get +3/+0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. You're going to probably have that many with this deck.
Yeah.
So, that's, again, that might be what you want to use for your commander. I don't know. It depends which way you're going with this deck.
Also, another thing to keep track of.
Yeah, exactly.
Orthari Sun's Glory for 5. It's a little 3/3. This is the one that Wizards recommends could be your other commander. I'm going to call her she because she's beautiful. Flying, not that you boys can't be beautiful too. You really can, I know. Flying, lifelink, and haste. Whenever Orthari Sun's Glory attacks, you get an experience counter. So that'll just kind of be like a little separate counter on there. Then you create a 2/2 red rebel creature token that's tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have. So that's just going to stay on there and keep getting bigger, and you're going to get more and more rebels. The more it attacks, it's flying, you're going to gain life. It's haste, so you do it right away. It's a really, really good card and would probably make a really good commander for this deck as well. You can also pay 4 and tap an untapped rebel you control to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Yeah.
So as long as you can keep creating rebels, you can keep bringing this back from the graveyard and create more rebels that you can then hopefully bring back if they try to get rid of her. So it's just going to be an ongoing thing. It also would help you if you used her as your commander to get around commander attacks. So
yeah. Well, and like I said, those experience counters don't go away. So even when this dies, you've still got 3 experience counters. So it dies, and it just continues to build on those experience counters, which is really nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Silverwing Squadron for 5 and a white. It is a flying vigilance big human knight that says its power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. That could be huge. Whenever it attacks, you get to create a number of 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance equal to the number of opponents you have. So not only is it going to be big anyways, you're going to add to that with your more tokens that you're making. Whew, nice.
Great. Crazy. And then we have Hexplate Wallbreaker. This is another one that is for Mirrodin. Comes in with a little rebel token that's attached to it. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. And whenever equipped creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap each attacking creature. And after this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So you get 2 combats if you have this and it's attacking, which is fantastic. And you can just equip it to something else if you need to.
Yeah. And then we have a very serious piece of equipment that all these equipment decks love to have, the Luxodon Warhammer for 3. Equipped cost is 3, and equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample and lifelink.
Yeah, this does so much work for you.
This could change the game for sure.
And
Mm-hmm.
Felidar Retreat, because it wouldn't be a good token deck without cat beast tokens.
Cats everywhere.
So this has landfall. Whenever a land enters the
Mm-hmm.
battlefield under your control, you get to choose one. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
Yep.
Those creatures gain vigilance until the end of turn. All
Yep.
around, this is a really powerful card.
Definitely. Intangible Virtue. This one is pretty important as well. It's a 1 and a white enchantment that says creature tokens you control have +1/+1 and have vigilance.
Yep. Another enchantment.
Yep.
Roar of Resistance for 2. Create token or creature tokens you control have haste, so now they can just swing right away. Whenever one or more creatures attacks, you may pay 2. If you do, creatures attacking your opponents and or planeswalkers they control also get +2/+0 until the end of turn.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well keep 2 mana and just give them another +2/+0.
Or
Charge.
You have more. You could do it with more.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Then we're at the other cards on theme that support this deck. So the formula calls for 10. The deck has 24. So these cards, they're very conditional. A lot of them are really powerful cards as well. But because they're kind of conditional, we thought, well, they're more supporting the main theme of the deck than being très important. So our first one is Elspeth Tyrell for 3 and 2 white. It's a 4 mana cost planeswalker. And you gain 1 life. Her +2 is you gain 1 life for each creature you control. So that could be relevant. Her -2, though, is create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. So that will help. And her -5, which isn't hard to get to, you get to destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens. So it'd be, we could have put it in the removal, but you have to get there.
Goes in lots of different places.
Yeah, it's just a really useful card to have in this deck.
Yeah. Emari Angel for 3 or for 4, it's a 3/3 flying. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. So great little 3/3 with flying anyway. You may not be playing land, so you may not be getting birds, which is why it's just kind of a support card, but still great, powerful, good.
Yeah. Legion Warboss, it's a good little 2/2 for 2 and a red, a good little goblin token generator dude. He has Mentor, though, which also helps as you're building up. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to create a 1/1 goblin creature token, and that token has to attack right away. So that's okay. So it just depends if you've got some extra buffing out or you have your commander out or something like that. That could be really powerful if you're making a goblin every turn.
Yeah, it does have a lot of potential, but I've also seen it fall flat so many times where it's just sitting there and you can't attack because they have this big wall, and then your little goblin just dies because it has to attack, right?
So exactly.
Loyal Apprentice for 2, it's a little 2/1 with haste. It's a lieutenant, so that at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, you get to create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, which is always great. The token gains haste until the end of turn, so you're just going to keep churning out those little Thopters if you have your commander out.
Yeah, so that one's a little more useful because your little Thopters might be able to get in a little easier than your Gubbos. Mirror Battlesphere. This is a 4/7 for 7, a big mirror construct. And when it enters the battlefield, you're going to make 4 colorless mirror artifact creature tokens. And whenever this attacks, you may tap X untapped mirrors you control. If you do, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So, yeah. Depending how many mirror you're making when you
create lots
of upgrade
mirror,
this deck. Who knows?
Phantom General for 4. It's a 2/3. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1. So here's another one of those things that you can have on the battlefield that gives all your other creature tokens +1/+1. It's not enchantment. It's just a creature, so it's going to be easier to get rid of. So that's why it's more of a support card, but another little buff.
Yep. Then we have Prava of the Steel Legion. So this guy is kind of more of a defensive kind of tool. You've got a 1/4 for 2 and a white that says as long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1/+4. And you can pay 4 and create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So yeah, that's a good way to make some blockers for you.
Yep. Battle Screech for 4. Create 2 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying. It has flashback, so you can tap 3 untapped white creatures you control and cast it again from your graveyard.
Sam.
And then you exile it. So.
Yeah. So this Finale of Glory, you're going to want to try to play this for 10. X is 10 if you can. But otherwise, it's you create X 2/2 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance. It's nothing to shake a stick at. If X is 10 or more, also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. So I said shake a stick.
I know, you need to enunciate.
Shake a stick.
Shake a stick at. Gold Warden's Gambit for 8. It has affinity for equipment, which means this spell costs X or 1 less to cast for each equipment that you control. So you can reduce it by up to 6, which is why those equipment that you have in the deck are great. You get to create 5 2/2 red rebel creature tokens. They gain haste until the end of turn. For each of those tokens, you may also attach an equipment you control to it. So free equip, you get a bunch of goblins. They're going to come in and swing. So this has some potential, this card. I think it's a new one.
Yeah. Then we've got Hate Mirage for 3 and a red. It's a little sorcery that says choose up to 2 target creatures you don't control. And for each of those creatures, create a token that's a copy of that creature. And those tokens gain haste. And then you have to exile them. But you're making tokens that might have double strike. Big guys.
That's right.
Possibly.
I keep forgetting double strike. Your
double
commander
strike
gives all your tokens double strike. Kill them fast, kill them hard, and then send in the heroic reinforcements for 4. Create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens until the end of turn. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste.
I love playing this card in Standard.
Yeah.
So fun. Out of nowhere, suddenly,
boom.
Game over. Midnight Haunting for 2 and a white. This is a little instant that says create 2 1/1 white spirit tokens with flying. That's pretty awesome too.
Hordeling Outburst. 3 mana. Create 3 1/1 white or red goblin creature tokens. So we're into our supporting token generator. So these ones just get you a few tokens on the battlefield.
Yeah. Increasing Devotion for 3 and 2 white. It's a sorcery that says create 5 1/1 white human creature tokens. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, though, you get to create 10, and that's because its flashback cost is for 7 and 2 white. So you can play that again. Do it again for more and making lots more tokens. Woohoo!
Do it again, Sam. And then call the Coppercoats. For 3, you have an instant. It has Strive, so that means this spell costs 2 more to cast for each target beyond the first. So you can target more if you like. You just have to pay an extra 2. Choose any number of target opponents. Create X 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents have. So, yay.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Could be a lot.
Yeah. Here's another one, White Sun Zenith for X and 3 white. Create X 2/2 kitty cats. And then you get to shuffle this into your library so you can do it again later.
Yeah.
Why not? Lots of kitty cats everywhere.
I like the Zeniths better than the Twilights. The Twilights that came out in this set, some of them are okay, but the Zeniths are, it's just an aside. Anyway, let's assemble the Legion for 5. It's an enchantment that at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to put a muster counter on Assemble the Legion. Then you create a 1/1 red-white soldier creature token with haste for each muster counter on Assemble the Legion. Nice. So this is just gonna, the longer it's in, the more red and white soldiers you're gonna create, and it's just gonna continue to eventually give you a Legion. This is actually potentially a really good card, and it's harder to get rid of because it's an enchantment. So. Yep.
Speaking of counters on things, this is the Volshock Factory for 2 and a red, it's a little artifact that says you can tap it to make a red mana, and you put a charge counter on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can pay 3 and tap it and sacrifice it and create XX colorless golem artifact creature tokens with haste, where X is the number of charge counters on this guy. But you get to do that only as a sorcery. So, yeah, you can build up some charge counters on this to add some more mana, and then when you're ready to use them, make a whole bunch of golem tokens. Nice.
Clever Concealment is a nice little protection spell because, of course, people are going to want to do some board wipes when you get this big board. They're going to start getting worried that you're out of control, which you are, and they're going to board wipe you. So you're going to Clever Concealment. If you have this, keep this in your hand until they play a board wipe. It has Convoke, so you can use your creatures to help you cast it if you don't have any mana up. And then any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. So all your creatures and permanents can just, non-land permanents can just phase out and say, sorry, we're not here for this board wipe.
Yeah. And this next card helps you too. And I think this card is actually kind of an expensive card to get right now, I think. Flawless Maneuver. It's a little instant that you pay 2 and a white. And if you control a commander, you may cast it without paying for it, period. And creatures you control gain indestructible. So you're going to use a board wipe of your own even. You could make everybody indestructible. Get rid of all their blockers. Kill everyone. Yeah. So I think this card is expensive right now, if I remember. Yeah.
Kemba's Banner has 4 Mirrodin. So it comes in with a little rebel attached to it. A creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. So it's going to be big if you have lots of creatures. It's not going to do much if you don't have any creatures.
Yeah. Oh, I was just looking it up. Flawless Maneuver, the first version of it from Commander 2020 is like $18 US right now. So yeah, it's a pretty good card to get in this Commander deck. What do you know? Mace of the Valiant. I really like this card. It's a little equipment for 2 and a white. This equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on this mace. And the creature has vigilance. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put a charge counter on the mace. So I think Leslie has this in one of her decks too. It's really good in
my
token deck.
It's in my kitty deck. It's in my it's in so many. It's in my Lila deck for sure. Maul of the Skyclave for 3. Whenever Maul of the Skyclave enters the battlefield, you get to attach it to a creature you control. So again, auto equip right off the bat, which is great. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has flying and first strike. So if you put this on the same thing that has Mace of the Valiant, now it's really big and has flying and first strike. So that's could be potentially
double strike,
a game winner. Oh, double strike. Yeah. Put it on your commander too. And
or no, it has to be on a token to have double strike.
Oh, right.
But you've made
so
lots of
either way, like the potential is crazy for that combination. So,
so then we're into the land. I can't remember how many is in the deck. I think there's 30. I think there's 36.
Usually it's 38.
38, yeah. And I think one of them is the little Castle of Ardenvale that lets you make tokens, which is kind of handy to have. So we won't go into the lands, but check them out. There's lots of pretty good ones in there. If you have lands that can make tokens, that's even better for you. So think about that when you're tweaking. That's place it. Maybe you can take some lands out or replace some of the basic lands with some of those better lands that you might have in your possession. Speaking of, that brings us to tweaks. And I will let Leslie start us off with the tweaks.
Sure. So these are just a few suggestions. We recommend that you play your deck a couple times first, get a feel for it, see where you think it does need some tweaking. But based on our analysis and not having played with it, these are some things that we think you could add to this deck. The first is around card draw. If having no cards in your hand is so frustrating in Commander, and there's not very many card draw, as we found out in this deck. So some stuff that also takes advantage of your equipment and some of the other themes of this deck. are Shram, Senior Edificer. He's a 2/2 for 2. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle, you get to draw a card. So again, with all that equipment that's in this deck, you're going to get some card draw on a regular basis. So he's nice to have.
Yeah. Akiri is a little core warrior, 3/3 for 3 that could be really handy in this deck as well because of the equipment theme. Whenever you attack a player with one or more equipped creatures, you get to draw a card. So that adds to the card draw. But you can also pay a white and you may unattach an equipment from a creature you control. And if you do, you get to tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So that's a good little protection piece that you might need that you can use Akiri for.
And then Tukayas. I don't know.
Asia.
Welcome. This person's welcome. For 3 is an enchantment. This is one that I would say is almost an auto include for this deck. But I would also say maybe a Reliquary Tower or something that gives you no maximum mana size, because whenever one or more creatures with mana value 3 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So it's only going to get you 1 card per turn, but all of your tokens have a mana value of 0. So every time a token enters, you could potentially draw a card. So that just gets you your ongoing. It's not like you'll be drawing 100. That's a good thing that it only triggers once per turn. But
yeah.
But this is a great include for this deck.
Yeah. Unbreakable Formation. This is a good little, if you have one, use it in this deck because it's an instant for 2 and a white. Creatures you control gain indestructible till end of turn, so just protect everything. Or you can play it on your turn. If in your main phase, they get +1/+1 on each of them, a counter on each of them, as well as giving them vigilance. So that if you want to swing and finish the game, you know, it's a little bit of a versatile card there that way. Yeah.
And Teferi's Protection for 3. Speaking of protecting your stuff and phasing out, this is an instant until your next turn. Your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. So protection, good way to remember protection is debt, DEBT. So it can't be damaged by, enchanted by, blocked by, or targeted by anything. So you gain protection, which is nice.
Very sweet. Then we've got some other ideas for more equipment, more tokens. So the Ancient Gold Dragon for 5 and 2 white. It's a big 7/10 flying dragon. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it's going to be probably every time, roll a d20. You create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the result. Yeah. That could be insane.
Lots of tokens with the Ancient Gold Dragon. Fun card for this deck. Also, we had one Elspeth. Why not 2? Elspeth's Sun's Champion is another great one. It's 6 mana, costs 4 loyalty. But instead of having to minus her to get 3 tokens, you get to plus her to create 3 1/1 soldier creature tokens. It also allows you to do -3, destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. So your little token guys are tiny until they attack. Remember your +1s and stuff like that are on there do count towards that. So just take that under advisement if you put this in. And then -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. So now all of your stuff is big and the emblem will never go away. So good ad if you have one of those.
Yeah. And then Outlaw's Merriment. I forgot about this little enchantment. I love this one. It's for 1 red and 2 white that says at the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1 at random. So you just randomly roll a dice or something to figure out which one you get. But you get to create a red and white creature token with those 3 characteristics, which could be pretty helpful in this deck. I love it.
Just ongoing token generation, and it's an enchantment. So again, harder to get rid of. Throne of Eldraine, that one came from. We get to go back to Eldraine in September. Yay. I am excited. Infestage Flesh Cutter for 2 is an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you get to create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1. So Toxic, we haven't talked about Toxic in this because it's typically not a rebellion thing. However, if you do damage to somebody with someone that has Toxic, they in addition to the combat damage also get 1 poison counter. And you can only have 10 poison counters before you are dead and lose the game. So might be a great ad, and it gets you some mites. Yeah. Which are also tokens.
This card killed me yesterday.
Yeah.
In a pre-release because I could not get rid of the equipment, and he just kept making
mites.
More little dudes to swing at me. So it was horrible. Then we've got White Sun's Twilight. It's a new card as well. This is one of the Twilight cards I think that lots of us talk about, maybe. I don't know. For X and 2 white, it's a sorcery that says you gain X life, and you create X 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifacts that have Toxic 1. And if X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. What? Board wipe for everything. Oh my gosh.
Bladehold War Whip is another new card.
I like the art on this one.
Yes, and it comes out, it's for Mirrodin again, so it comes out with a little rebel. Equip abilities you activate of other equipment cost 1 less to activate. So now you can equip for cheaper. Equip creature has double strike. So if your commander's not out, this one will still have double strike. So yeah, it's great.
Good. And Dragonwing Glider, this is another really good card. Equipment that just came out is for 3 and 2 red, though. The Mirrodin is on it. And equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has flying and haste. Oof. That could be fun.
Yeah. And another great flying equipment that has for Mirrodin on it. Equipped creature has flying, and creatures you control that are equipped get +1/+0. Oof. So if you have your equipment spread out, it gives them all a buff as well.
Yeah. Then Hexgold Halberd is another equipment with the for Mirrodin for 1 and a red. Then as long as it's your turn, equipped creature has first strike and trample. Ooh. Goodness.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Then another one we thought, again, it's an enchantment, so it's going to do a regular thing for you, is Rabble Rousing for 5. It has Hideaway. So that means when this enchantment enters the battlefield, you get to look at the top 5, Hideaway 5, so top 5 cards of your library, and then you pick one of them, and you kind of just tuck it under this card, exile it face down, and put the rest on the bottom. So then, whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, you create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Then, if you control 10 or more creatures, which will be easy in this deck, you get to play your exile card without paying its mana cost. So you get a free spell, you get to attack and basically double the amount of creatures that you have based on what you have attacking. Doesn't matter if they die because you're just creating more anyway. This is a really good one to add in this deck.
Yeah. And then if you have an Anointed Procession that's looking for a home, this is a good home for it. This, if you don't know about this card, this is a 3 and a white enchantment that says if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. Oh boy.
I feel like they need to reprint Anointed Procession.
I think they do.
It's really in every token deck. This one too, Divine Visitation, is kind of a, you should put it in every token deck if you can. It's a 5 mana cost enchantment. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So every token that you create is now a 4/4 white angel creature token with vigilance and flying. So
Secure the Waste. I love this card. It is for X and a 1, or 1 white, I mean. It's a little instant that says put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. Think of that with the angels. Oh my.
Yeah. Caither's Crusade.
Yeah.
For 5, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So never mind the tokens just keeping coming out. Being able to put some counters and make them bigger as they come out every single time. And those are counters. They stay on. They're not the +1 that you're keeping track of elsewhere. So
And then just a really strong card that I thought would be pretty good because you might have quite a few soldiers. Depends on, maybe take a look and see how many soldiers you're making. However, Myril, the Shield of Argive, does make soldiers as well. So during your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So they have to lay off you, leave you alone on your turn. And whenever this attacks, you get to create X11 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. So it's just going to keep building. That's why I love this card. It's so fun. 3/4 as well.
And then the final suggestion that we have today is Angrath's Marauders for 7, which is pretty expensive, but what it does is kind of amazing. It's a 4/4, and if a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to the permanent or player instead. This is different than Double Strike because all your tokens already have Double Strike. However, that basically just means they're going to hit first, and then they're going to hit again during regular damage. So each time they hit, they're going to do double that damage as well. So let's say you have a 4/4 that has Double Strike. It's going to do 8 damage and then 8 damage again. Now, Double Strike with Combat 2, if it's blocked, the second doesn't matter. The second damage doesn't matter unless it has trample. So that's something to take into consideration. But yeah, a source you control, not just a red source you control. All your
anything.
Really good card. Really good card. So
have to get rid of it.
Potentially higher impact stuff. So thank you so much for watching. We are, of course, available. You found us on YouTube. We're available on Twitch. You can find us there playing some games. Also, please feel free to connect with us somewhere on the internet. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Find us. We're at TapThatMTG pretty much everywhere. We'd love to hear how you would tweak this deck. What are your suggestions? Did we miss something? Please let us know in the comments. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime,
tap those magic cards and have fun doing it.
Bye guys.